One of the ways that we can reduce anxiety and stress in our lives is to better understand the monkey mind. How does it work? And what is it that is unfolding when I'm absorbed in my thinking that leads me to feel more stress? In my book, Addicted to the Monkey Mind, I introduce a tool that I called Inside My Skin versus Outside My Skin. And let me explain. The focus of our monkey mind is external. It's looking for a solution to a problem. It knows that there's anxiety in the body. It knows that there's stress. And its focus is external. It's focusing on the situation. It's focusing on the person. And as it's doing that, it's building more anxiety because the source of the anxiety is not out there. And one of the best things that we could do is to first observe this dynamic. It takes a little bit of doing initially because we're so used to following the mind that tells us this story that, yes, the problem is out there. Let me illustrate this through an example and how we can actually change this dynamic with observation. There's two people, one named Steve and one named Bill. And Steve lives in San Francisco and Bill lives in Chicago. And they're both executive. They've been working for the same company for about 10 years. And they are going to a meeting and they're going to close the biggest account the company has ever seen. Now, they don't know each other. They're in different cities and they are faced with the same exact situation. There is a meeting. They know that this is it. This is the last meeting and this is the opportunity to close the account. They're asked to show up to a new building they've never been to. And the meeting's at 9 o'clock. They show up and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. They show up an hour in advance. And so Bill and Steve show up in their cities and they start going into the parking lot. And as they go from one level to the next, the parking lot is completely full. And they keep going in circle. 20 minutes goes by. And then suddenly there's a space that becomes available and somebody pulls out of that space. And then there's somebody on the other side that actually pulls in right in front of them. And they were sitting there with their blinker on. And there are two completely different responses from Steve and from Bill. Steve is upset. He's really frustrated. And Bill has a little bit of irritation initially, but he's okay. All right. That space must have been met for them. Let's take a look at the difference between the two and how one is under the spell of this monkey mind that's dictating his experience. Steve's first thought is, oh, this guy's a jerk. And he keeps continuing going around and around. And finally, about 50 minutes into it, there's no parking space, so he decides to go outside the building. And the same thing happens to Bill, and they're parking on the outside. And now by the time they're heading to their meeting, they're both late for the meeting. Now, Steve is under extreme anxiety. Bill had a little bit of irritation initially and was anxious a little bit, but mostly he's feeling good about going in. Now let's examine what's happening to Steve. Steve is under the spell of this monkey mind. And what the monkey mind does is it focuses externally. It's really focused on what is happening outside of Steve. And this is, most of us, this is how we're conditioned to respond to this situation in our lives. Let's take a deeper look. If we're able to actually identify when we're caught in situations like this, if we're able to identify where is my focus? Is it inside my skin or outside my skin? Now, notice I use this term because inside my skin and outside my skin makes it easy to notice whether I'm focusing on something that's happening internally or whether I'm focusing on something that's happening externally. Let's take a look and see how the monkey mind gets wrapped up into one story after another and builds on itself. For Steve, the initial reaction when the other person takes his parking space is, "Oh, what a jerk." And now he's following this story that this person is mean, they're inconsiderate. Does he know the person? Absolutely not. He doesn't know the reason why the person did what they did. Maybe they didn't see him. Maybe they did. Maybe they're in a hurry because their wife is pregnant. We don't know. But the thing is, the monkey mind is focused and it's looking for something to blame so that it thinks that in doing so, it will alleviate the stress. Let's ask ourselves, every time the monkey mind comes up with a story, we ask ourselves, am I inside my skin or outside my skin? When we look, Steve focused on thinking the guy's a jerk. He's obviously outside of his skin. He's talking about this guy he doesn't know. Now, as he's walking towards the elevator, there's another thought that comes in. And he starts thinking, oh, I'm late for the meeting. Now his anxiety skyrockets. And as he's thinking more like, oof, I'm late for the meeting, this is not going to go well. Now the stress level is going up. Now, is he getting closer to the real issue that's happening for him? He's focusing again outside of his skin. And as long as the monkey mind keeps us focused externally, then we have no chance of resolving what's happening internally. We keep going, and as he's getting closer to the meeting room, now there's another fear that comes up, another story, which is, oh, they're going to judge me because I'm late. Now there's this huge anxiety again that surges because, oh, now he's concerned about what other people will think of him. Now, he walks into the building and he says something because he's nervous, and he says, sorry, I'm late. I was here about, an hour in advance. And he's telling a little bit of a story. And you could see the CEO in the back of the room is rolling his eyes and he's just, oh no. And as this is unfolding, he has more anxiety, not less. And where's his focus? Again, it's externally about the fear of other people judging him. Now, ultimately, for most of us, when we react this way, usually it doesn't go well. And for Steve, it doesn't go well either. And as he leaves the meeting, there's the next story that comes in. And now it's, you're going to lose your job. I can't believe you did this. You should have known better. And then the monkey mind now starts blaming him. And the focus is still external, which is a fear of losing his job. Now, the difference between Steve and Bill is that Bill has a sense of he is confident in his capacity. When he walks into the meeting, he says something like, hey, I understand I'm late for this meeting. He looks at his CEO. He says, if we need to talk about this afterwards, I'd be happy to. I'm on fire about this presentation. Is everybody ready? Now, what's the main difference? This is something that can be difficult for us to admit, or it could be very humbling to come to realize that we are in a state of distress and it has nothing to do with the external situation. And the main difference between Steve and Bill is that Steve is busy putting his own sense of value in question. And he doesn't realize it because he's caught in all of these stories, one after another, that sound really good. They make sense. But yet he never addresses the deeper issue, which is his sense of confidence in himself. And most of us, like Steve, oftentimes we're conditioned to doubt ourselves. Steve was raised by a father who kept telling him, you know what, you just can't do anything right. And he always has this monkey mind that says, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. If we can pause and observe those stories as they unfold, and be able to ask ourselves, wait a minute, the story I'm listening to here, am I focused inside or outside my skin? What is happening here? And notice that it takes some courage initially because it's distracting to following those stories. The monkey mind is conditioned to believe, oh yeah, don't move towards inside the distress. That's too dangerous. That's too vulnerable. That's too open. Here's my invitation. Pay attention to the reasons that you are anxious. In any moment, when you have a situation, pay attention to the reasons and pay attention to where the focus is. And then ask yourself this question: what is happening inside of me? Thank you for spending this time with me. This podcast is meant to be more than just information. If there's one thing I've learned over the years is that we are wired for connection. And if we are to learn the skills of living beyond this monkey mind that can be so overwhelming, it's best to do it together. And for that purpose, we've created groups. We call them pods. And we named them Aviv la Vie, which means live life to the fullest. Come and join us.